Hello,
Okay,
Tell them I not to.
Carol.
Hold on. Yeah, please don't take any calls. I'm in a meeting. It's okay.
okay, Carol, I'm recording.
Somebody wants to, you can do it to reference. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being so patient today with the mix up with the time. Next time it'll be at 2:00 again. So I just want to welcome everybody in this. We have really bad weather here in New York, and I've heard a lot of people in Florida where it's 87 degrees, so you're lucky. My name's Carol Stern, and I'm a librarian at the Glen Cove Public Library. Before we begin, I just have a couple of announcements. As I said before, to market calendars, March 22nd at 2 p.m., Amy Bloom's going to speak about her book, In Love. If you enjoy this event and other books events, please consider joining the Friends of the Glen Cove Public Library, and thank you to those who have joined. You can do this through our website, www.glencovepubliclibrary.org. We rely on community support to make these events possible, so thank you in advance. So welcome, Brendan. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys, and my apologies. I'm so sorry for the mix-up with the times. I'm really sorry to have been the cause of that. Sorry.
No, things happen. It's really an honor to have you here today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm not being a violin player. You helped me visualize what it takes to be a performer in the book. And it was such an enjoyable read. It was really one of my favorite. So Brendan was born in California and was raised in North Carolina. He's a graduate of the University of North Carolina at Greensboro with a degree in music education. While at UNCG, Brendan was the concertmaster for the University Symphony Orchestra and served as the principal violinist. He performed with numerous small chamber ensembles, including flute and clarinet choirs, and in the Best String Quartet. For the past 23 years, he's been a public and private school music educator and is a Nobel Educator of Distinction. He also serves as an educational consultant for the Kennedy Center and as the concertmaster for Nova Annandale Symphony Orchestra. Today, Brendan lives in Washington, D.C. In his spare time, Brendan enjoys writing, exercising, collecting comic books and action figures, and performing with his rock band. The Violin Conspiracy is his first book. And as you can see, you're a man of many talents. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. So I was going to ask you the first question. Can you tell us a little bit about the Violin Conspiracy? But somebody mentioned you played the violin in the past talk you gave. Could you give us a little sample of that?
Well, okay. First, I would be more than honored to perform for you guys today, but unfortunately, over Zoom, I've tried it several times. It does not translate very well. There's delays and the sound doesn't come through, and I've tried. I promise I have. But the next time I see anyone in person, I promise I will play. I'll have my fiddle strapped to my back. I promise you I'll play for you. The Violin Conspiracy, for those of you that have not read it, is the story of Ray, who discovers that his old family fiddle is actually a priceless Stradivarius violin. And this discovery catapults him into superstardom in the world of classical music. And right before the Tchaikovsky competition, which is the Olympics of classical music, his violin is stolen. Will he get it back? Will he find out who took it? Will he get to compete? Was it his family who thinks that he should sell the instrument and split $10 million? Was it his teacher who might be a little bit jealous? Was it Mike the doorman? Was it the Marx family whose great-great-grandfather used to own Ray's great-great-grandfather and say that the property is rightfully theirs? It's got a whole bunch going on, not just about music and life and the theft and, you know, about doing what you love and discrimination and perseverance and mentorship, and it encompasses everything. And if you haven't read it, I hope you get a chance to, and I hope you enjoy it. And for those of you that did, I really hope you liked it. I hope you liked the story.
Yeah, it's worth a read. So what inspired you to write the book, and why this particular story? And
Yeah, I'm sorry.
how did
Go
you
ahead.
come up with the idea for the book? And this is your first book, so could you incorporate all that?
Absolutely. This is my first book, and the book came about the summer of 2020. As a working musician, that's how I made my living. I was teaching lessons and performing. I was actually at a wedding reception performing when I heard that my next 2 or 3 weddings were just canceled, not rescheduled, canceled until further notice. And the same thing with lessons and recitals and rehearsals, and everything stopped. I was sitting on the couch during the summer of 2020, eating, getting fatter and fatter and fatter because I had no motivation. And I saw an advertisement for selling books in the age of COVID. I'd written a manuscript almost 20 years ago. So I submitted it. I was like, why not? I'll submit it. And I got a letter back saying, whoa, this book is absolutely horrible, but you've got a good voice, so you should write what you know, and it's not science fiction. So I took the advice from the literary agent, and I started writing the first chapter of Violin Conspiracy. Those were stories, a conglomeration of stories that I've been carrying around since I was 9 years old. The first time I picked up a violin, and this was a perfect opportunity for me to tell it. And it actually started as a YA novel, and my agent convinced me to take it out of the YA realm, and I'm glad he did. And I wrote every day for 2.5 months, and Violin Conspiracy was born.
So how is it different from playing the violin to writing a book? I mean, it's all the arts, but it's different.
What
are the common threads between the two?
I think that the common thread between the two, for me at least, is being able to incorporate all of the senses. For music, it's you're listening, and it's a mechanical thing, and for writing, you have to find a way to translate what it is that you're hearing and feeling onto the page. So in the beginning, when I was writing a lot of the musical scenes, everything was very, very, very technical. I would just write what I know. This is how you do this bowing and this particular articulation, and string this and cello that and viola this. And I let my friends who were non-musicians read it, and they were like, this is like a foreign language. I have no idea what you're talking about. So I realized I needed to incorporate a lot more imagery into the descriptions of the music. And I really wanted people to feel what it is that I feel as a musician, not only getting to perform, but being able to share the music. So I put down exactly what I felt, what it felt like for me to be able to play the music that I play. And I think that it worked out.
So what was the writing process like? How long did it take? Did you outline? How long did it take you to write this?
I am an outliner. I outlined everything from the beginning, middle, front, first, middle, end. Everything was outlined. It changed a great deal, but yes, I definitely followed an outline, and I wrote every day. I've met people that say it took me a year to write 2 paragraphs, and I just don't get it. I'm not one of those people that just hangs on to the same thing until it's perfect. I'll write and let a million people read it, and then I'll change what needs to be changed based on feedback that I get. But I'm definitely an outliner, and I like to write every day until I'm done. If I don't have at least a full month to be able to write daily, then I'm not even going to start on a project. Like I'm ready to start writing my 3rd book now, but I'm traveling so much that I really don't even have time to kind of sit down and write. Everything is up here right now.
So did you know the ending of this book when you outlined, or does it come to you?
Man, I tell you, the ending, Carol, it changed 5 times. The villain at the end was different at least 5 different times. I had 5 different endings, 5 different people. And I just decided to go with the one that made the most sense to the story. Yeah, things changed. I pulled in Agatha Christie. She's one of my favorite writers, and I used to love reading her stuff when I was a kid. And she would have, she's got a lot of characters in her stories, and so she would take one character and say, I'm going to make this person the culprit, and then she would go back and rewrite. So I pulled an Agatha Christie. That's what I did, several rewrites to make everything fit.
It's interesting. So Ray's inner drive and resilience, I think, are remarkable. How much of your own life is reflected in Ray's characters?
92% of Ray is Brendan.
So what is Brendan and what is not Brendan?
Well, I'm going to start with what's not Brendan. Ray made it to the Tchaikovsky competition, which is the top of the food chain for performing competitions. And if I started violin, I started playing when I was 9. If I had lessons and a good instrument, and I started maybe 5 years sooner, I would be at Ray's level. But 9 years old is like a grandpa starting violin in terms of music. That's really old to start and not have any lessons. So that part is not Ray. And I like to think that we both share an optimistic view of life and people and everything. And we're both a little naive in a sense. And I like to think that we're both nice guys. So that part I'm especially proud to share with Ray.
So are your parents musical? Where did you get your music from?
That's the $1 million question. I tell you, I have no idea. My parents were not musical at all, aside from, singing in church or singing in the shower, not at all. And I started with the violin, and my sister picked up with cello, and she was actually pretty good. And she played all through college. And my youngest brother, who I lost in 2021, was the most talented of all of us. He was just incredible. Not only could he perform, he played oboe, he played French horn, and he was a composer. He was phenomenal. And I think it just skipped a couple of generations and went straight to the kids.
Wow. So in the book, Dr. Janice Stevens was a mentor. She was a good character. Can you tell us about who your own Dr. Janice Stevens is? Was she modeled after someone?
Absolutely. I'm so glad I get this question, because I get to sing the praises of my Dr. Janice Stevens, who is, thank you so much for, thank you, Anna. My Dr. Janice Stevens is based on my violin teacher from college, Dr. Rochelle Vetter Huang, and she taught me everything that I know. She taught me how to play the violin. She taught me how to teach. She kept me going when I wanted to quit. She motivated me nonstop. I didn't think that I could do half of the things that I've been able to accomplish. And it was all through her just motivating me and keeping me going. And hey, fellow UNC graduate, all right, keeping me going. And, just giving me the courage and the drive to keep going through a lot of adversity. And I am forever grateful to her. And I really wanted to pay tribute to her in this story, because not only me, she touched and inspired all of her students. And, we all have that in common, and we all thank her for it.
Did she read the book, Rochelle?
She was the first one to read it. And when Rochelle, she emailed me the next day, she said, Brendan, I had only intended to read for half an hour, but 2 hours in, I just could not put it down. And I can't believe you remember what I played the first time you met me. I can't believe you remember these details from our lessons. And I was like, why would I not? You taught me everything I know. I'm here because of you. Of course I remember that stuff. So she was very flattered and very honored, and that made me happy that I could just show my appreciation towards her.
Do you have a relationship with her today? Are you still?
Oh my gosh, yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely. And when I contacted her to let her know that I was sending her a manuscript to this book, we hadn't seen each other in 27 years. And that initial meeting I'm tearing up just thinking about it, because I love and appreciate her so much. And it was a wonderful experience to reconnect. And yeah, I just sent her a newspaper article the other day where I mentioned her name, and I'm going to send her a copy of this video, just because I'm so excited about her and I'm so grateful to her. And mentorship is an incredible thing.
Yeah, it's good to have a mentor. Yeah, it gets you far. So talk about mentorship. Ray has no role models in the book. From his grandmother to Dr. Stevens, who you described as the pillars of his life. Men in the book weren't that kind to him. So how different would Ray's life be, or your life be, if he had a father figure? And is that from something from your life also, that you didn't have any male role models?
Wow, Carol, you are getting hardcore with these questions. I love it. That's great. That's a really good question. Let me speak to Ray in the beginning. Ray, unfortunately, it's all too common that young men don't have a father figure. It's a common. It's a horrible thing. It's not impossible to raise a strong young man, without a father figure. It's a lot easier to do with a father, but unfortunately, sometimes in life these things happen. It's not an uncommon occurrence for there not to be a male figure in the household, and that was the case with Ray. And I think had his dad been around, Ray would have been a lot more confident a lot sooner. Something tells me that he probably would have gotten more support that he needed. Personally, I'm an open book. My parents divorced when I was very young. I believe I was in third grade when they divorced. So I would see my dad around periodically. And, I like to think that I got the support. I got as much support as I could have gotten. And who knows, it's one of those things. I think I turned out okay.
Yeah, more than okay. Are you kidding? So the story starts out with the violin being stolen in part 1. Right away, you told us what happened. And you set up a series of suspects, as you said, of the theft, including Ray's family members and the plantation owners. Did you know who did it from the beginning? Did you have this in?
First, thank you, Debbie, for that comment. That was really nice of you to say. And no, I honestly didn't. The culprit changed. I think I had 5 different people who were the actual thief. And I went back and had a bunch of arguments / discussions with my literary agent on the direction that I was going to go. And it was decided, I think, when I wrote who actually did it, it was a great move, and I was very happy with it. I was very happy to lay out the process, how everything worked, and that was a lot of fun to do. And one of my favorite scenes to write was when I'm trying not to give any spoilers, but when Ray went on his hunt for the instrument, I will say, when he did some house scoping. Yeah, when he did that was so much fun to write, because it was just, it just kind of brought everything together. It was a lot of fun. But the culprit actually changed at least 5 times.
So, I read a lot of books, and I think it's sort of interesting that you told everybody at the beginning what happened.
Mm-hmm.
What made you get right to the point? Like, what made you decide to use that as your writing style?
I wanted momentum from the very beginning. If I'm reading a book, I want to be entertained. And it's like watching a movie. Movies start off really slowly, and you're like, that's expected. Okay, it's going to start slowly, and then everything will pick up. But with this book, if you just bam, hit them right from the beginning, you're hooked. Okay, I want to see what happened. What happened? Who was it? I think it's this person. I think it's this, and let's just keep that momentum going. And I learned a lot from this book about keeping momentum going. And I just didn't want there to be anything boring. If I was bored, I knew that the reader would be bored, and I didn't want that at all. So I just decided to, hey, let's hit them with all 10 guns right from the beginning.
So art theft, it's been in the news lately, with the Nazis stealing paintings from the German people.
Mm-hmm.
How did you do your research in this? Like, how did you do this?
I talked to FBI agents. I talked to art theft department agents. I talked to insurance companies. I talked to private investigators. I talked to police. Originally, I thought that, you watch an episode of CSI or Law and Order. Okay, in an hour, everything is solved. Man, was I wrong. Just hearing from these people, I found out so many interesting facts about when people steal really valuable things. Not only do they keep them for their aesthetic value, but they also use them as leverage. I discovered that if someone has, let's say, a stolen Stradivarius violin, and they get caught for stealing something else, and they say to the feds, I know where this violin is, knock 10 years off of my sentence, I'll tell you exactly where it is. They totally use leverage against each other. And someone who normally would steal a work of art or steal a priceless instrument, it just sits there. They normally are not players, and they can't show off the artwork because they just can't show it off. So it's usually kept for a couple of years just for the just for the thieves enjoyment, and then it's constantly being moved, and I found that fascinating.
Are there a lot of Stradivariuses in this country? Have you ever played one?
In the world, I believe there are close to 250 surviving Stradivarius instruments, violins, violas, cellos. I have not played a Stradivarius yet. I'm going to put that period with the three-letter word yet, not yet. I believe that there is a chance for me to play it. And if there's a chance, there's a chance. I'm going to do it.
What is the difference? I mean, what makes it so special?
Okay, a little bit of science here. Scientists and instrument makers that have tested the varnish, they've tested the shape, they've tested the wood, they've tested the craftsmanship, they tested everything. No one can tell you what exactly makes a Stradivarius so close to perfect. The only way to do it would be to destroy one and examine it from the inside out, and no one's willing to do that.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
So Grandma Nora, let's talk about her a little. She hands the violin down from her father, who was a talented musician, enslaved by the Marx family. She gave Ray's confidence and guidance on how to live as a Black man. She said in the book I quoted, "You work twice as hard, even 3 times, for the rest of your life. It's not fair, but that's how it is." So how did her presence support Ray? And is she based on your grandmother?
Grandma Nora was one of the most important characters in Ray's life. And I like to think, I hope and pray that everyone has a Grandma Nora in their life. Just that one person to get you going and to keep you going and to inspire confidence and to, pick you up when you're down. She was the strength that Ray needed for a very long time. And thank goodness he had her. She was extremely important to him. That's why he loved her so much, because he knew what strength that she gave to him. This 5-foot woman who was so tiny and frail. She did so much for him. And Grandma Nora was based on my actual grandma Nora. She was my grandmother. And as I was writing her dialogue, I could literally hear her over my shoulder. And I'm just writing. And we had some of those conversations when I was a kid. And she would make Thanksgiving dinner, and there would be a plate of squash that no one would eat, but she would make it all the time. And I just never understood that. And, she had the pink and green rollers in her hair, and her hair was as indigo as the day is long. And I still to this day don't know how she got her hair to be that blue, but it was totally blue. And, I just
die.
I loved my grandma. And, I asked my aunts and uncles and my mom, and I asked her, she did not make blueberry pie, but she did make peach cobbler, which I was not a fan of. I was a blueberry fan. I asked my mom and my aunts and uncles, I was like, what was it, just me, or was she truly the sweetest woman on the planet? Every single one of them said the exact same thing. She never had an unkind word to say about anyone ever. And they all said the same thing. And that's just the type of person that she was. And I really wanted to pay tribute to Grandma Nora in this book, as I loved her. And all of my aunts and uncles and cousins and nieces and nephews, they're all just they're thrilled that everyone sees how wonderful this lady was.
She sounds very special.
Absolutely.
So in the author's note, you wrote that musicians of color are severely represented in the music world. And even after almost 40 years of playing the violin, I'm still confronted with conscious and unconscious discrimination. Can you talk about this a little?
Yeah, it's a sad fact. 1.8% of orchestras in the world contain Black people. Black people play in 1.8. That's insane. And I'm not trying to blow anyone up or anything, but like let's say just the New York Philharmonic. New York Philharmonic has one Black person in it, and it's not truly it's one of the greatest orchestras in the world, and it's truly not representative of New York City, because New York has Latinos and Asians and Middle Easterns and blacks and white and everything. It's just not represented in classical music, which is sad. It's changing. It's beginning to change, which I think is fantastic. But it's still a sad state. And I played the violin since I was 9 years old, and I still will go to a school to do a clinic, or I will walk into a room to play something. And it's been said to me, it's like, the garbage can is over there. Can you just empty that on your way out? And or the furniture, we need this cabinet moved over here. I'm like, why are you telling me? And I was walking down the hall in a shirt and tie one day in a school. I was going to teach a class, and a little girl comes up to me and says, are you one of the cleaning people? And I was like, no, I'm not, sweetheart. I'm one of your teachers. So let's get to class. And it still happens, and it's really sad. And I'm just going to add this tidbit. I was at a book festival fairly recently, and I'm in line waiting to go into an event, and I had my author name tag on, but I had it hidden. It was obscured, so no one could see who I was. I just I wanted to go hear an author speak, and the volunteers were just coming up, talking to people, telling them where they needed to go. And then she looked me up and down like, why are you here? And then she said, well, do you have a ticket? She didn't ask anyone else for a ticket. And, she proceeded to tell me that and I was like, okay, I'm actually one of the authors. And then everything changed. I'm like, okay, well, all right. That's why, I'm hoping that this book will be a catalyst for change. I really do hope so that no one else has to go through this stuff. People ask me, how do you deal with it? How have you dealt with this for so long? I think I'm just the messenger. I'm the one that is dealing with this now. I've written this book so that other people never have to deal with it. I don't want anyone to ever have to deal with, discrimination, conscious or unconscious, from the hard work that I put in, learning how to play my instrument, learning how to, perform with a symphony, playing all of these difficult, intricate solos, to someone thinking that I'm there to move garbage just because of the color of my skin. I never want anyone to have to deal with that again. So I will take the hits. I will totally gladly take the hits so no one else ever has to. And I'll do it with a smile.
So Eleanor wrote, it's really, and I agree with her, it's unfortunate that this still happens today.
It is, but we learn. That's just how we learn. We learn and we move on, and we prevent it from happening, to the next generation or the next person. So, okay, I'll take the hits.
So rejection is part of the creative arts. And I guess a lot of people feel that because it's so competitive. Have you been rejected, and what does that feel like to you?
Oh my God, have I been rejected? Really? Yeah, constantly, all the time, and I have to thank my musical upbringing, my musical background, for being able to handle rejection. You take an audition and you don't make it. You learn how to fail. That just, okay, I need to work on this, and it makes you better. And then I'll go back in the next time and I'll do so much better, and I will make the group. Or, if I write something in my writing, and the first manuscript that I ever submitted like 20 years ago, I got a stack of rejection letters. I got at least 100 rejections. And I handle it. I could handle it because I knew what to expect. You're not going to win all the time. You need to learn how to fail. And I took the advice, and I took everything that I learned. I took all of the critiques and comments, not only just in writing, but in music. I always take what I can and I apply it, and I apply it for the next time, and it makes things so much easier the next time around. So, rejection is a part of life. It's something that we've all got to deal with, and we've all got to learn how to deal with it. And, it's one of those things. And I'm glad for the rejections that I did get, because they just made me better.
So going back to what I asked you before, when you talked about people's prejudices in the book, you played at a wedding,
Mm-hmm.
and the father of the bride tried to kick you out. Did that actually happen to you in real life? And
that actually happened. It was slightly modified. I tell you, I was in college in a string quartet that I was playing, and we had just finished playing at a wedding, and we played the very last note, and the father of the bride he scooched us out of the church as quickly as he humanly could. And we just wondered, was everything okay? The bride was happy, the mother was happy, the guests were happy. And he looked at us right in the eye and he said, "You ruined my daughter's wedding. This is
Oh my
not what
God.
I paid for. You leave." And he's like, he couldn't kick us out before we started playing. He couldn't do that. He wanted to, but he couldn't. And this was the first time that we actually really saw hatred in someone's eyes, and it stayed with all of us for a very, very, very long time. But to this day, I really hope that that guy has had a change of heart, and I hope that he realizes, I hope he's in a better place. I really do hope that for him.
Yeah, really. So Ray comes from a disadvantaged background. Why did he not want to sell the Stradivarius? Like, why did he want to keep it and not take the money? Because it was worth so much money. You talked that it was worth $10 million. That's a lot of money to distribute.
That is a lot of money. And I tell you, the reason Ray didn't want to sell the instrument is because of where it came from. Not only was it a gift from his beloved grandmother, but he knew that violin represented so much more than just a piece of wood with strings attached to it. He knew that it was his heritage. Not only was it that it belonged to his grandmother, but it obviously belonged to someone else that was handed down in his family. And that was his family heritage. And sure, you could sell it and you could spend the money, but then, you spend the money and the money is gone and you still don't have that piece of your heritage and your history. So Ray was ahead of the curve in thinking that way. When someone flashes 10 million bucks in front of your eyes, all you see are dollar signs. And I totally get it. If someone said, "Brendan, I'll give you 10 million bucks for a violin right now," I would probably have to think twice about it, because that's my baby. That's what it's a part of me. It's an extension of my body. That instrument chose me and it's taken me through so much, and I've been able to do so much with it. And I want to be able to pass it down and say, this is what this instrument did for me, and it can do the same thing for you. And that's worth a lot more than 10 million bucks to a lot of people.
So Ray was hit by a lot of people because he was sued by his own family for this violin,
A lot of people. Yeah, he was hit pretty hard, and I got to give it to him for his resilience. A lot of people probably would have caved to the pressure, but I'm glad that he didn't.
Right. And then the Marx family was after him. I mean, it was all over the place. They were greedy also, they wanted to go to any length to get that back.
The Marx family, people often ask me, are they based on real people? And my response is always, everybody knows Andrea and Dante Marx. We all know people like that. We all know people who are so ridiculously entitled and self-centered. We all know people like that. I bumped it up a couple of levels with the Marx family, for the dramatic element. I think it worked because they were a piece of work, but everybody knows someone like that. And I wanted to base this book on, I wanted it to feel real. Everyone has to deal with family drama, family dynamics, family dysfunction. Everybody. If you have no family dysfunction, I would love to write a book about your amazing family, because we all have it. Maybe not to the extent of Ray's family, but we all deal with it, and we understand. We can totally, I can relate to that. I can totally relate to, why you want to sell this instrument, why you're mad at Ray for not giving us a chance to get 10 million bucks. It's $10 million. We can all relate to that. So with the Marx family as well, I bumped them up a notch, but yeah, we all know people like that.
Do we want to know people like that? So how has classical music and how has playing the violin changed your life? And what inspired you to go to classical music, like not rock music or something?
Well, okay, just a slight correction there. I love all types of music. I am a rock head. I am a hip hop head. I love metal. I love classical. Just being an artist, just growing up listening to all types of music. When I was a kid growing up in the 70s and 80s, listening to the radio at night. My mom was a nurse and she used to work the 11 to 7 shift. And, we'd wake her at 10 o'clock so she could be at work at 11, and we're listening to the radio until 10 o'clock. And Queen, ABBA, Kansas, Boston, Stevie Wonder, the Spinners, we would listen to everything. Juice Newton, Eddie Rabbit, everything. We would listen to this stuff all day and all night long. So I had an appreciation for all types of music, and I loved it. And the first time that I heard classical music was Mozart Symphony number 40 in one of my music classes. I think I was in 3rd grade. And it was the symphony that goes dum da da dum da 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 dum. And my music teacher said, "You will always know this is Mozart because you can sing. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's a Mozart." I thought that was the greatest thing I'd ever heard in my life. And every time I was looking for more after hearing that. And back then, you guys know now that you can hear classical music anytime you want. But back then, it would only be played on the weekends on the radio station. So every weekend, my ear is up to the stereo. You guys remember the 4-foot high floor model speakers that used to be on the side of the stereo, and my ear would be to the stereo speaker, just listening to Mozart and Beethoven and Dvorak. And the first time that I heard the Dvorak String Quartet number 12, I said it that day, I'm going to play this. I don't know how, but I'm going to play it one day. And, I've played that piece several times since then. Music is one of the most incredible forces on the face of the planet. And it truly, truly, truly is a life-saving force. It changed my life. It kept me off the streets. When my friends were running around, breaking into people's houses, I truly was listening to music or practicing or in a rehearsal. The first time I got to go on an airplane was because of my violin. The first time I got to travel to New York City was because of my violin. The first time I went overseas was because of my violin. I went to college because of my violin. I got to play with Stevie Wonder because of my violin. It's just music. I'm a huge advocate.
Wait a minute, when did you play with Stevie Wonder?
I got to play with Stevie Wonder in 2016. He did a concert in Charlottesville, Virginia, and they hired me to play in the string section of his orchestra. So we're playing, Isn't She Lovely? I mean, it was 16,000 people in this audience, and he was incredible. And it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And I'm like, it was incredible. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Stevie Wonder was
bet that
great.
was incredible.
Oh, it was amazing.
He was one of my favorite.
Yeah.
You talked about, when you talk about playing, you describe Ray, the feelings he felt when he was performing, that he would break out in a sweat sometimes. Is that common when you perform like that? Is it very physical and a mental effort to do this?
Now, I'm not sure how many musicians are watching and listening right now, but it truly is a physical, it's physically exerting. It really, really is. There have been performances that I am just dripping sweat at the end. I am sore because I'm so into it and so intense. And, there are pieces of music. I remember in particular a Beethoven overture, the Consecration of the House overture. It's long. It is long, and it is very, very physically demanding, and you're breathing heavy at the end of it. And that's how it is. And you want to put everything you have into it because you want the audience to feel and enjoy the same exact feeling that you're getting, from playing this. It's exciting just to hear the name Beethoven because it's going to be just raucous and all up in your face and really, really, really exciting. You're definitely going to get your money's worth. So as musicians, we want to give you everything that we have. So that does often leave us in a pile of sweat.
Right. And I think just performing leaves people in a pile of sweat also.
Oh, yeah.
Just the nerve of the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
In chapter 33, young Nora wrote a letter. And I was just curious, how authentic is that letter? Did you have a letter like this? And there were so many spelling errors. I mean, I guess you did that on purpose, but is this what went on during slavery? Is this accurate?
Yes. So chapter 33, that was actually, I think, one of the most important chapters in this novel, because it gives us a glimpse into what it was like. And I'll say this, and I often say this when I'm asked this question. Excuse me I'm a little congested. I apologize. When I was in school, I got America had slaves. Black people picked cotton. Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. That's all I got. And I knew there was so much more to it. And originally the letter was supposed to be a diary, but I decided to make it a letter. Just a diary would be way too long and far too detailed. So with that letter and the spelling errors that you mentioned, that was totally intentional because the letter was being dictated. And Nora was, I think, 9 years old in third or fourth grade. They're going to be, you're going to spell stuff incorrectly. You just do it phonetically. So with that dictated letter, I did research into what I did not get in school, learning about slavery and what it was like. So everything that was in the letter was completely authentic, and believe it or not, I actually toned down the details. It was a brutal read, but I actually brought it down a little bit just to kind of make it, just to be able to get through it, because I know a lot of people had a difficult time reading that section, and I applaud anyone who has powered through that section, because it's really important, because that's how brutal life was back then.
Yeah, it was described pretty brutal. So you got pulled over when you Ray got pulled over when he was driving in Baton Rouge.
Brendan did too.
Did you? And did you go to jail?
I did not go to jail, but I did have the gun pointed at me. I was on my hands and knees with my hands up and on the ground, face on the ground. I really thought that cop was going to shoot me, and it was because of an illegal lane change. It was pre GPS, so I was using a road map, and I'm in this lane and the hotel is over this way. So I put on my signal and I turned, and then the lights and sirens come on, and I think that cop was just flexing his muscles a little bit, and just, and I'm glad that I had a friend with me in the car. There's no telling how that would have turned out. And for that reason, I will never go back to Baton Rouge ever again. I'm actually going to New Orleans on Friday for a book event, and one of the flights stopped in Baton Rouge. Nope, absolutely not. I won't do it. I changed my flight to make sure that I go direct to New Orleans. But yeah, unfortunately, that was real, and that still has an effect on me.
What was that movie, The Green Book? Did you see that?
I did. Yeah.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
So the ending, I was surprised that you made Ray come in second place, that you didn't give him first place. I mean, second place is really a good in that competition to come in, but why did you choose that?
Hey, Angela Anderson, nice to see you. I chose I wanted Ray to come in second because it's you think about it. A lot of people have said to me, he should have won. But I'm gonna tell you, this kid beat all the odds. He made it to the highest level of competition in the world. He had an instrument stolen, yet he still competed at an extremely high level. He was dealing with mental fatigue. He was already a winner. He made it that far. That is winning. That is winning. Winning does not necessarily mean coming in first. That's not always the definition of a winner. And I want people to understand that. He made it that far. That is a win. He worked his butt off to get to where he was. That is a win. He competed and he showed the world that he was capable. That's a win. That's a win any way you look at it. So that's the reason I did that.
Yeah, it is a win.
Yeah.
So congratulations, you were selected as a Good Morning America book club. That's an honor. When did you find out that they were picking you? I guess that was really exciting for you, and it's every author's dream. Can you talk about the whole process there?
Wow, I tell you, yes, classical music used to play on cartoons all the time. That's where I learned the Barber Seville, Lynn. Absolutely. I'm sorry, I'm digressing as I'm reading some of the chats. That Good Morning America pick, it could not have come at a better time. I tell you, I heard the news, and it's bittersweet. I heard the news at my brother's funeral. Right before I was on my way to my brother's funeral, I got a call saying that Good Morning America had chosen the Violin Conspiracy as a February book club pick for 2022. And the interesting thing is I found out in May of 21, and I had to keep it a secret all the way through February of 22. And that was one of the most difficult things I'd ever had to do. And I just, when they read the manuscript, they really loved it, and I'm so happy that they did. And that was it's still one of the biggest thrills of my life, being able to go and do that interview and play on the stage at Carnegie Hall. It was absolutely incredible, and never going to forget it. Never, ever, ever going to forget that. It was amazing. Thank you. Good Morning America.
And it must boost your book sales. I mean, that it really does wonders like that.
I like to think so. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's how we get all our books, by these recommendations. So Raekwon, is that how you say the name? Is such an unusual name for a character. Where did you get that from?
That's a really you asked the best questions, Carol. I think it's great. Raekwon, he was actually based, the name of the character was based on one of my former students when I was teaching in Pennsylvania. I would call the attendance. He was in 7th grade, and I'd say, Raekwon, and he would say, Mr. Slocumb, please just call me Ray. Just call me Ray. And that always stuck with me because he was the greatest kid. He was a really, really, really nice kid. I was like, I'm going to use this guy's name. And the funny thing about Raekwon as a name for a protagonist, I actually had a fight. I had a fight with some people on my team about the name Raekwon. I was told that they could never sell a book with a protagonist named Raekwon. And I fought back, and I'm so glad that I did. It was like, not everyone's name is Bob and Jim and Mike and Jeff and, Richard. Not everyone has, I know 10 people named Raekwon. And, I don't look at it as not being relatable. It's a kid's name. That's his name. Just because we changed the name of the character in the book is not going to mean that, that there won't still be another 10 Raekwons born tomorrow. And, it's just, I think that representation is really important. And I'm glad I fought to keep the name Raekwon. I'm so glad that I did. And people really came around and are like, you know what, you're absolutely right. I'm so glad that we had that fight and you won.
Yeah, it's an interesting name. But the kids now today, they name their kids such different names than when you're not Bob, Carol, 10 Malice,
Right.
You're getting Apple and all these names. So the book cover and the title, was that the original book cover and the title, or did it go through changes?
The book cover, I tell you, this is the final product. Well, the hardcover. I got a little bit of input when I first saw the image of the eye and the mouth and everything. It was very, very feminine, like eyeliner and whatever. What is this stuff you put on your? What is this called?
Eyeshadow.
Yeah, that stuff. Between that and lip gloss and everything, I was like, yeah, that just looks like a woman. Can we make it a bit more androgynous? And they totally, I think they nailed it with that cover. And they told me, the art department told me that there were, they had violins hanging from strings, hanging down from ceilings, and it was all kinds of craziness, before they came up with this cover. And I think they nailed it with this, and I absolutely love it. And as far, what was that second part of that question? I forget. I'm sorry.
The title and the cover.
The title. I was not thrilled with the Violin Conspiracy. I actually did not name it the Violin Conspiracy. My agent did. I just working book number 1. That's all I would title it. But when it was time to turn in the manuscript, he said, you got to come up with a name. I was like, I don't know. Let me think about it. He's like, I got to turn this in today. So Violin Conspiracy, done. Okay, they'll probably change it. And, they loved it. So there we go. I'm glad they stuck with it.
So, at the beginning, I said that you collect comic books, action figures, you perform in a rock band. So what's your favorite song to perform? Who's your favorite action figure? And what favorite rock song do you play?
Oh my gosh, Carol, really? These are fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to do those in out of order. My favorite comic book character is this guy.
Who is it?
This is a comic book character called Speedball, and he is sitting on my desk because I love him so much. And he's on, believe it or not, he's actually on my phone as well. I like this guy. I'm sorry, I should have had that up. Yeah, he's on my phone. He's just a great character. He's so obscure and so underrated. I'm always like reading about him, and he's fun and he inspires me. So every time I write, I have him sitting right here. My favorite rock song. I'm a huge fan of the band 311. I love 311. I'm a huge 90s, I'm a 90s guy, and I love any song by 311. And what do I like to play? Geez. Well, I'm the songwriter in our band, so every song that I've written, I absolutely love them. I love them all. But the best song that I've written is a song called 11, which is actually a love song. And I had a bunch of friends going through a bunch of just craziness. You know, people are in the hospital, emergency surgeries. We don't know if you're going to make it or not. And one of the chorus from the song is "Die for the one that you love over and over again. Say it until you know that my love will never end. I need you like 12 needs 11."
I'll have to listen to some of these.
I'll send you a copy.
Oh, I'd love it.
Absolutely, will do.
So are you working? You said before you have another book. Can what's your latest book that's coming out?
My next book that is coming out is called, is this it right here? No, that's my it's will be out on April 18th, and it is called Symphony of Secrets. And I am incredibly excited about this book. And I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. It's out April 18th. And first, it's not a continuation of the Violin Conspiracy, but it does take place in the same universe. And all of the books that I write subsequently will have characters mentioned in a previous book. Like one of the main characters for Symphony of Secrets is actually mentioned in the final chapter of the Violin Conspiracy. And I'm just gonna do one of those things, and there will be references to other characters. Believe it or not, when I started writing Symphony of Secrets, I absolutely hated it. I was so disappointed in myself. I felt like I let everyone down. I was like, okay, I'm just a one-shot thing. I wrote a book that a few people liked, and now I'm done as my career as a writer is over. But I put it away after not having thought about it for about 5-6 months. Put it away. I read it after not even thinking about it, and I could not believe how much I enjoyed this book. I love it now. I absolutely love it, and I hope you guys love it too. Quick synopsis, and you excuse me one second. I'm really congested for. Okay, Symphony of Secrets. It's the story of America's greatest composer. He's bigger than Beethoven and Bach and Handel, and he's huge. His 150th anniversary celebration is coming up, and his family runs a foundation in his name that's synonymous across the world with Walt Disney. You think the Delaney Foundation, you think Hands Across America. It's bigger than Disney. They hire this musicologist to do some research into why this guy's music is so beloved by everyone. And they even found a long lost piece that's going to be premiered at this celebration. So they hire this musician and this musicologist to do some research. And during his research, he discovers this guy may not have written any of his music, and it may have been written by a Black woman who we now know would be living with autism, and the family will stop at nothing to keep it a secret. Symphony of Secrets.
Sounds good. I can't wait to read it.
I'm happy. I'm
And I'll
happy about
remember
it
the
now.
date. It's my anniversary. I'll remember the date it's coming out.
Carol's anniversary. Got it.
So I read that Sony picked up the rights for a limited series for the book. You want to talk about that? Is it a TV series or?
Sony picked up the rights, and I tell you, I'm about to sneeze. I don't know what's going on. Excuse me
All
one
right,
second.
go ahead, sneeze. Bless you.
All right, thank you very much. Sony picked up the rights to Violin Conspiracy, and they are planning a limited series right now that they're going to try to sell to Netflix or HBO or another sneeze.
God bless you.
Not quite sure what's going on. And they're a screenplay is written, there's a director attached, and they're looking for a showrunner right now. But I'm learning with this Hollywood stuff, it might happen, it might not, and if they don't do it, someone else will probably pick it up. So we will see. It's definitely in the works. People often ask me, who would you get to play Ray? Who would it be? And I often say, me, of course, I would totally play Ray. Younger Ray with less gray and more hair, probably. But no, I honestly think that the person who should play Ray should be a musician, not an actor, because a lot of these scenarios they will totally be familiar with, and it won't be acting. It'll just be like reliving something that you've done before. So it's going to be really curious. I'm really curious to see who they're going to cast. I just asked for a cameo at the end. I just want to walk by. That's all I want.
Will you have any input in the series, or did they take that away from you?
They say that I will have input, but you know, they Hollywood types. That's all I can say. They'll say a lot of things. I don't know. No clue.
So what's the most exciting thing that happened to you since this book was published?
This interview.
Besides this interview.
I get to meet so many incredible people. I have met such amazing people from all walks of life, you know, just musicians, current musicians, former musicians, people who wish they played, people whose kids could relate to everything, you know, just amazing people who have told me that as a result of reading this book and hearing this story, I've changed. My life has changed. I'm doing things differently. I'm supporting this. You know, I'm not going to do just hearing that. I'm like, wow, I just wanted to write a book that people would enjoy. That's all I wanted. And for all of this to happen as a result of this book, it's absolutely incredible. Every day I meet someone new, or I hear from someone who this book has affected in some way, and that is incredible, and it's nonstop. And I'm so incredibly grateful. And this interview is just part of it. I see these phenomenal questions that you're asking and that people are putting in the chats, and it's great. And I thank you so much for it.
Well, the book was terrific. I really enjoyed it. And there's 99 questions in the chat. I don't know if I'm going to get to all 99, but do you have time if I can go through some of them?
Let's go.
Oh my goodness, let me start from the beginning and I'll try to, hello. Thank you so much. There's no, how do you choose your books? Oh, that was to me. Okay, let's go past that. I love the Violin Conspiracy. Can't wait to read your next book. How much of this book is true? You answered that. How is a YA book different from an adult book?
Oh, good question. YA books tend to center more on teenagers and teenage scenarios and young people things, which is, you know, kind of misleading, because young people issues are just old people issues being dealt with by young people. That's all. They're the same issues we all have. And you know, some people just like reading, you know, okay, I'd rather hear a young person deal with it so I can have some optimism about the future. And you know, it's just it's not really big of a difference. But in the publishing world, YA is this whole other thing that, you know, they're trying to steer me away from. But I'm going to write a YA book. I think I am.
You wrote the musical scenes beautifully. Your imagery really stood out for me as a significant part of your story. Can't wait to read the Symphony of Secrets. Oh, someone read it. I had the privilege of reading Brendan's new book, Symphony of Secrets. It's wonderful. Get those reserves in. Thank you to Glen Cove Library.
Thank you.
I'd love the audio. I would love an audio book. Did you read the audio book? Was that your voice?
I did not. That was J.D. Jackson, who did a phenomenal job. I was very happy with the way he read the book, and he's actually up for an Audible award for best male narrator for Violin Conspiracy, and that those results come out in March. So look to see if J.D. Jackson actually wins for that, and I'm sure he will, because he did a phenomenal job. And yes, I'm going to read mine one day, because I listen to J.D. Jackson's voice, and sometimes I think I can come across the exact same way. So I'm going to try it.
So here's an interesting one. I appreciate that racism can be conscious or unconscious, and that many of us are racist without even realizing it. Therefore, I was especially dismayed when you described Jacob Fisher, who has an obvious Jewish name, as being a hook nose or crooked nose, a caricature of a Jew going back to the Nazi propaganda from the 1930s. Is it possible that portraying Jacob Fisher as with a hook nose or crooked nose, you are disparaging a distinctive racial group, thus promoting the very form of prejudice that you seek to challenge by writing this novel?
Yep. You know what? I got to take the good with the bad. And that is an excellent point. And I have learned, I'm apologetic. And even in the paperback version, I asked that description be changed. And I'm not quite sure if it got changed in the paperback. I'm hoping that it did. When that was brought to my attention, I immediately felt awful. I was like, you know what? I'm doing the exact same thing. unconsciously. I did not mean anything harmful or discriminatory by that, and I offer my sincerest apologies to everyone I offended by using that description of Jacob Fisher having a hooked nose. That was an awful mistake on my part, and I have since learned from it, and it will not happen again.
He graduated from school. I did listen to the, okay. My son was the director of clinical psychology, UNC. Your inspiration to all men and women. Kudos to you and your mentor who have had the wonderful opportunity to influence youngsters. Sorry, I can't wait. It's blocked on my screen. Of your sibling, sorry about your sibling. I know I can read that he meant a lot to you. In your mind, was there a backstory to Ray's mom's actions and personality?
Well, for Ray's mom, I took her to the edge. I took the character way to the edge. Some people think that she was just a nasty, nasty person, self-centered, just that she was just a nasty, greedy person. Or some people could think, well, maybe that's the only way that she knew how to protect Ray. She'd never seen anyone be successful. She'd never seen a Black man be successful playing the violin. So she didn't want to have him go through that hurt and disappointment. So having him be discouraged at every opportunity she had, maybe that was her way of trying to protect him. I'll let the reader decide.
How did the mother character come from such a nice woman?
I just pushed it. I pushed it to the extreme. And mom in the story is not my mom. I promise she's not my mom. And I took a ton of liberties in developing her character, with her being as mean and nasty as she was. And you'll notice that she was the only sibling out of the family that did not actually have a name.
So Mindy Ehrlich wrote, come to Long Island in person. My book friends and I will welcome you with open arms. Maybe for the next book, you'll come to Glen Cove and talk in person.
Done. If I get an invitation, I'm there.
Oh, you'll get it. We haven't done any in-person programs because our community room it was under construction. But as soon as it's ready, I'll call you.
Done.
Such a wonderful book, and you're a fabulous speaker. The author's notes were so meaningful and emotional. I agree.
Oh, thank you.
How often are auditions held blindly? I know that my father's best friend who played the tuba for the Metropolitan Opera had instituted blind auditions for the Met.
Blind auditions are a really interesting phenomenon. It sounds good, but you have to understand that the classical music world, when people, let's say a violinist is coming in, if there's an audition that's open, let's say for the Chicago Symphony, and there's a string section, you're getting applications from all the top teachers, and all the top teachers know that they probably taught the people who are doing the auditions, so they know who these people are. And you get a name and you see a name and you're like, okay, I know who this person is. So it's blind in a sense that you don't see them perform, but you really do know who is who. So it's not truly blind. It's only blind if you walk in with a number off the street. But it's an effort to make things a bit more fair. So you got to applaud that.
Why did Ray keep giving money to his relatives?
Like I mentioned, Ray was really naive, and he just wanted to keep everybody happy. He just wanted to keep the peace. He learned eventually, but that sense of being naive, it's something that Ray and I both share.
Do you want to keep going? I mean, there's so many more questions.
I got about 9 more minutes.
Okay, so maybe that's 9 more questions. After hearing the way you speak, you surely have Ray's personality, genuine and kind. Do you think that classical musicians, it's a cutthroat industry?
Definitely a cutthroat industry. And thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate it. It's cutthroat. It is. Like I mentioned, I started violin at age 9. That is ancient in the music world if you're really going to pursue a career in classical music as a performer. And I'll never forget in college, the trumpet professor, and this guy was voracious. He's an incredible player, and he had the reputation of being mean as a snake just because he was so intense. I was scared of him. Everybody was afraid of him. He came up to me after a performance one day. He caught me in the hall, came up to me and said, "You got to excuse my French on this." He was saying this, and not me. I'm just repeating. He said, that was an incredible performance that you just did. And if somebody gave a shit about you before you started, when you were younger, you would be playing with a major symphony right now. You wouldn't even need to be here. And that was the greatest compliment I think I could have ever gotten at that time. He saw something that I didn't see, and just hearing that from him, it's like, wow, okay, all right, maybe something is good. Okay, thanks, dude. Okay, but yeah, that's where we are.
So I'll make this the last question. I'm sorry I can't get to everyone's questions, but it says, thank you for sharing these painful personal experiences. I hope that you had the opportunity to work with young people of color to inspire them to play classical music. You're a role model for so many. Thank you.
Thank you. And I really appreciate that. And that's what I want to do. I truly believe my calling is to help anyone that I can through especially the means of music and arts education. It's done so much for me. The reason I'm sitting here right now is because of public school music education, and I will do everything that I can to support it and to support the people who do it and to teach it and to get instruments and to motivate kids and to keep them on the right path and to just show them everything that they ever wanted to do. It is possible. Never, ever, 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 ever give up. Ever, ever. That is my advice to anyone doing anything that they do. If you love it, you do it and you go for it 100%, always.
Well, thank you. This was a great interview and you were very easy to interview.
Oh, okay, good. All right.
Yeah, thank you so much. You were wonderful.
Thank you. The
I
pleasure
think
is mine.
there was a tear in my eye a couple of times.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Seriously, no, you're so inspirational.
Oh,
Yeah.
you guys are
You
nice.
really
Thank you.
are.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you so much. Come back again.
Thank you. I absolutely will.
Terrific.
Thank you so much. April
Awesome.
18th, look for
Awesome.
Symphony of
Yeah.
Secrets. I hope
Now,
Were
you
you conflicted whether to be a musician or a writer?
Thank
Were you
you.
conflicted to be a musician or a writer?
I tell you, that's the hardest thing that I'm dealing with right now. I miss being able to play. I can't play in the symphony any longer because my schedule is just so all over the place. I'm constantly traveling. So I miss all the concert dates and I miss playing. I was telling someone today, I miss going to symphony rehearsal every week and I miss playing, symphonic music. I miss it. I'm playing more solos now, but I don't get to practice as often as I'd like. And once I start writing, that's going to fall to the wayside. And I got to start writing my third book. And once I start, I'm not going to stop until I'm done. And it's tough. It's a balance that I'm still trying to figure out.
Do you have your own children that you have passed on your love of music to?
I have 100 kids, 1,000 kids, all from my previous students. I don't have any children, but that's okay. I have nephews and nieces who have fantastic ears, and they got my brothers and my sisters' musical talent, and that's plenty. And I'll just nurture it. I'll continue to nurture it, and anyone who comes along.
You have a beautiful speaking voice. You should either be singing or at the very least reading your own books for the audio books.
You know what? I appreciate that. And the next time I'm on, I will sing a song for you.
Woohoo!
I would
Y'all
really
are awesome. I really like you guys. But I actually have to get to a lesson
Have
right
a
now.
good
I'm going to go
meeting.
teach a few
Brandon,
lessons.
thanks a million. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. I'll have a good
Thanks,
one.
Carol.
Thanks.
Thanks, Carol. Have a great vacation.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. That was
Very much.
wonderful.
Always
Next
great.
one.
Great
Thank
interview,
you.
Carol.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Debbie Serrata, my cousin.
Bye. Who's that?
Carol, I'm glad you
Ann
finally got some
Isabel.
snow.
Oh, okay, Ann.
What? Say that again?
I said, I'm glad you finally got some snow.
Yeah,
This
I'm
is
not.
Nancy.
I was hoping we'd go through the whole winter without any.
Me too.
Three. Carol, you ask amazing questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was really an excellent program. Really, truly excellent.
Thank you. We'll see you next
he
time.
was really charming,
He was charming. He was easy.
very charming. And I do love his voice, his beautiful voice.